flipped the script on how children are learning by turning them into student scientists of kindness. That, to me, is where long-term transformation happens globally. So much of what's being put out is made by adults for kids. We did one of the largest studies ever, and there was a mismatch. If we're guiding you toward these sets of behaviors, but that's actually not what kids need, then how are we equipping kids with what's most valuable?
You've taken this into the workplace and schools. Where is it harder to move the needle?
Honestly, the harder part has been corporate.
What is the one thing you wish people would just stop doing because they think it's kind, but it's actually not helping anyone? You know, I've been married now. This will be my 20th year of marriage. And so many times you get like defensive, and instead of listening, acknowledging, validating, you start making excuses and you just keep digging the hole deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. I'm like, why don't they teach this stuff in elementary school and middle school and high school?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's another big area that kindness.org is focusing on is the education space and what children are learning from their earliest years. And I think you hit on the idea of asking a question, curiosity. It's one of our org values.
Yeah. Same R360.
Yeah.
Curiosity is one of our big values.
Oh, amazing. Same. So I really try to make sure I come out that we don't have a monopoly on this. We're coming with questions and we're doing our best to show up and we're always evolving and adapting, but it's about asking those questions. And when we were looking at children, exactly to your point, what are they learning? How are we equipping them? We evaluated the space. This kind of work is couched under what's called social emotional learning. There's endless programs and resources out there to teach this. But we asked educators and caregivers and principals, are there any gaps? What are you struggling with? And so many of the SEL programs are prescriptive. You're telling a 5-year-old to be kind, but that is not, I mean, you're a dad of 4. My kids are in this age right now. Like, I can't just say be kind, right? So what we did to overcome the barriers is really flip the script on how children are learning by turning them into student scientists of kindness. And they are built around question and curiosity and the intrinsic sense as kids that they want to understand and learn by being immersed. And it has been unbelievable to see the impact in just 5 years since we launched this curriculum out into the world of what's happening by teaching kids, ask questions, study kindness, learn that it's different for all of us, and nested under it, Charlie, they're learning empathy and compassion. They're learning about mental health. They're learning about conflict resolution, leadership, their choices and impact out in the world. And that's the real power, I think, of where we need to really invest is the future of leaders and how kids are being raised. And I think to your earlier question, that's how it's fixable. If we don't just focus on math and language arts, but we really are focusing on the future of how we're raising civil citizens of the world who know how to show up in a leadership capacity and who know how to contribute to the world, balancing these things of being curious and being a good listener and being kind. That to me is where long-term transformation happens globally.
No, I agree. And I've written 2 books on leadership. They're in 15 languages. I've spent much of my life teaching leadership. And you mentioned a couple things that I think are key. Curiosity and having an open mind. And I always told my kids and tell people that your mind is like a parachute. It only works if it's open.
Mm-hmm.
That's number one. Number two, you mentioned the word scientist. I think in hypothesis. So many things that I believed 20 years ago or 30 years ago have been proved false. And it happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather put something out there and say, look, my hypothesis is X. It's
Mm-hmm.
based on these assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I believe. If somebody comes with different facts that changes my assumption, then I will change my hypothesis. That's what science is all about. One of the best scientific books of all time was written by Thomas Kuhn, who coined the term paradigm shift. And what happens is scientists come out with some theory, they become very famous, and then they spend the rest of their life not being open, but defending their. Now, it's different than values. Kindness, curiosity are a value.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a conflict, you're going to look at your values and make those decisions. But I think that if somebody wants to be successful in life, they need to think like a scientist. And then the last thing I would say is I've done a lot of studies on the number one skill of a leader is self awareness.
Hmm.
We're all built different. There's 17 main patterns and a whole bunch of other ones. And we often marry our opposite. So my superpower could drive my spouse nuts
Yeah.
and vice versa, which a lot of the best decisions are made together. Or if you have to do a task, but your partner has a superpower on that task, you let them do it, even though
Yeah.
it's not like the way that society may think spouses should behave.
Mhm.
And then the second most important quality of a leader is empathy.
Mm.
And empathy to know that if you have 4 children, their personalities are totally different.
Yeah.
It's weird how that happens. And then if you want to, as a parent, to maximize their full potential, which is all I want my children, is to discover their purpose, what are their gifts, use their gifts for the benefit of others, and achieve their full potential, you got to come at them differently. My son's an introvert. My oldest daughters, or all my daughters, are extroverts.
Mhm.
So how I come at him is totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in school, when you're trying to teach kindness, obviously it's a whole different ball game because of where people come from,
Yep.
all of those things. Tell me about what's the most counterintuitive thing that science has shown you? Something where you've said, "Wow, I would have never guessed that about kindness."
Oh, we have a lot of research. This year we'll publish our 10th research paper. Research takes a long time and we care about not just it being publishable, but citable. So is it actually contributing to the scientific field? I believed so deeply in what kindness could do and the power of it, but I'll never forget someone else published this paper. We did research on the link to well-being. So it was a meta-analysis. We did a systematic literature review on 27 papers, and that now is the gold standard paper on kindness and well being when it comes to contributing to others. And out of that, another research paper emerged, which showed a kind act is the most effective way to improve the well being of two people. It's like a two for one. And it's the most effective way to raise societal communal well being. And I believed in it. And then all of a sudden I saw this is newer research from the past few years. So when we talk about mental health, when we talk about well-being, we started finding that we're a resource, for example, on crisis text line. So when people are calling, crisis text line because of suicidal thoughts or dark thoughts, they send them to kindness.org. Go do a kind act for somebody. Because literally, that is one of the quickest ways in that moment to help someone get out from what they're facing and what they're going through is to go help somebody. I would say that as a encouragement to people that there's real power in what it's actually contributing to. It isn't just a nice to have. It isn't just a soft thing. It's something that's actually the most effective way that, as far as what we know now, to your point of evidence being able to change. But today, all evidence points to this being something that has, like critical mass around, like if we could get people to do this at scale, what it could do for the mental health epidemic. And so that was quite surprising to me.
You mentioned it briefly, but we have a lot of parents that listen to this. So how do you actually teach kindness at home? Is there a method, or are parents mostly just winging it, or what do you do? You're the expert. So help other parents listening on things that they can do with their kids.
Yeah. So one, first and foremost, you said it just a moment ago, your kids are going to be different. We know that, but genuinely how kind they are and their capacity for kindness is very different. So with your 4 kids, I'm assuming you saw varying levels of natural kindness. Like some of them just naturally more empathetic, naturally more willing to be a helper. So my 2 boys, 5 and 7, my younger one is just the naturally sensitive, empathetic, kind helper. He has a hard wiring to want to serve, to want to love you, to want to hug you. And my older one is more reserved, not so interested in that. It can be hard for him to want to do that. And so I think it's always remembering you're raising different people. We know this and it's obvious, but it's important to know that means how you're teaching kindness is going to be different because it's more natural for some than others. The main thing we try to focus on is awareness of action. So every day, it's like you're getting out of the car to go to school and you're responsible for your choices. You have agency of choice. And so little reminders like you get to choose how you're going to show up. And that I cannot emphasize enough giving kids that reminder of choice and agency with their behaviors. So we really have tried to instill it. What is it? It's like it takes 10,000 times to do something before you can be considered an expert or something. So just reinforcement, behavioral reinforcement, verbal reinforcement. And then as far as little activities that we've seen that are quite successful, we have a kindness jar, and we use it for two things. When we see kind behaviors, we celebrate that and we point it out and we say, hey, I want you to know like what you just did. That is what kindness is. And sometimes now they'll come and be like, oh, this happened. Like, can I put it in the kindness jar? So it's an awareness around being reflective with that. And then what's an act we can pull out and commit to do that day? So those kinds of little exercises really help create an environment where kindness is expected, not just something we try, but like we're expected to show up with this. And again, self-awareness. I love that that's the first leadership trait. It's from the earliest days. Like our most formative years in childhood development is up until we're 8. So we need to be investing at those early years to really be shaping how do we strengthen self-awareness? How do we give kids the tools to embrace these kinds of behaviors? And then dialogue. We talk about it every day. And sometimes they don't want to, but it's reminding them this is how important it is. I don't care about the grade. You're 5 and 7. I'm not interested in the homework. It's like I'm interested in what did you learn that showed you how to show up as a good human today? How did you, and you're not always going to. So how did
Right.
you face the adversity? What happened when someone said something cruel? How am I giving you the tools to be equipped? And then any parents, if you go to our website, kindness.org, we have a huge hub of incredible resources for all of this. We have everything and anything you can imagine that you can bring into your home. We have a guide we created with highlights for Children magazine called a Guide to Difficult Conversations. To exactly your point, to give kids the tools to know you're going to have kids that think differently than you, but how are you equipped to go in with curiosity, finding common ground? If we can start all of these things again at the earliest ages, that's where, long-term change can happen around the world. Does that help?
That definitely helps. And the other thing that you mentioned, and I'm connected to some of the top longevity docs
Mhm.
around the world, and they'll all tell you that about 15 to 20% of longevity is genetic. And you mentioned that some people are just wired to be kinder, but you also said it's a skill that, like a muscle, that you can grow it. Is there any behavioral like test or stuff? Like a lot of the behavioral tests that we've developed or that I am certified in, you have to be like 15 years old. Is there something that you can use that's scientifically valid for kids that shows you that kind of kindness genetic?
Not to date anything that I know of from what
Yeah.
we've seen, and it does come down to age and privacy, and, we have do one of the largest studies on children. This was in partnership with ESPN grant to study how kids understand kindness. Our hypothesis is that so much of what's being put out is made by adults for kids, but if kids aren't actually weighing in on what they need and what kindness is, there could be a mismatch. So we did one of the largest studies ever with youth. We did it through, I want to say ages 11 to 17. Please don't quote me on those ages, but basically middle school and high school.
Right.
And it was asking kids, what are the kindest things you would want your peers to do? Because if we're guiding you toward these sets of behaviors, but that's actually not what kids need, then how are we equipping kids with what's most valuable? And so it's called Kid Kind Base. It's a database of kind acts rated by children. And then we
Wow.
have adults do it. And there was a mismatch. Adults thought these sets of acts were the most important, and kids are coming in saying, nope. This is what actually matters to me in middle school. And so we can now use that, and we have used that to guide. And you can find this on our website to guide you with resources on, hey, have your kid focus on these kinds of acts of kindness because this is actually what kids need most right now.
You told us you've taken this into the workplace and schools. Where is it harder to move the needle? A corporation with quarterly earnings pressure or a middle school full of 13-year-old kids?
Great question. Honestly, the harder part has been corporate. So we with our school program, it's called LearnKind, with zero marketing, completely organic and word of mouth. We have surpassed 500,000 students reached. We're in 50 states.
Wow.
We're in 80 countries. We did a randomized control trial to evaluate the efficacy, and we saw academic performance improve. We saw teacher mental health improve. Of course, we saw an incredible increase in kindness and pro-social behaviors. So we're incredibly proud of what LearnKind is achieving in the classroom setting. We had many stories come in from eighth grade teachers of boys saying, let me tell you why this is changing, how they're understanding kindness, because you're not coming in at them with prescription of it.
Right.
And so the very first thing we do, we don't give the kids a definition. We let them know it's personal to you. Here's what the science says. And so they go through the first, framework around the science of kindness, and eighth grade boys are saying, oh, it's heroic to be kind. It's like it's brave to be kind. So they're completely taking it from like, oh, kindness is weak, soft, like it's for girls, whatever their narrative of kindness is. And now they have real evidence that says, no, it's hard to stand up when you need to do something for justice, or that person's being bullied and you go to defend them. And so that reframing has been remarkable, and we've seen incredible traction. The corporate side, what's interesting, Charlie, is we get so much inbound from corporates coming to us saying, we need help. Low morale, lack of employee engagement, retention challenges, leadership barriers. Like we have, you can imagine. And it's almost always someone from HR, a passionate employee who's like, I love my company, but like
Right.
something's not working. And every so often, someone in the C suite. And, we have this on our website. Some of these companies have included Verizon, and Google. And, we've had people come to us that are from quite large and substantial brands and companies. But when push comes to shove, trying to do a company-wide focus on kindness is so difficult. Even when we have all the data to show why it's good for bottom line, it's good for shareholders. We did a study that looked at kindness and the importance to employees. We focused on 6 companies in the United States, all different sectors, so that we could show diversification, that this wasn't one kind of company. I was featured on Bloomberg talking about this study because unanimously the employees said, we care more about how kindly we're treated than what we're being paid, what our income is. So as
Wow.
as a leader, you're thinking, look, this matters. Like the people have spoken.
Big time. And of course, you're ringing the bell on the NASDAQ closing,
Yes.
and tell us
Yes.
about the, like I didn't know there was a kindness week. Like how long has there been a kindness week?
Started in the 90s. It was
Okay.
initiated by a wonderful group out in Asia. And then it became kind of unofficially this week that now officially is embraced by the world. You can like Google it. There's like a history in Wikipedia about
Right.
it. And, my thing is that every day should be Kindness Day, but we use that week, World Kindness Week, which is, it always falls in November around November 10th to 14th. And World Kindness Day falls on November 13th. So it falls within the whole week. And it's just a moment in time where people can really embrace and focus on the message of kindness across media and culture. There tends to be a huge uptick in school adoption using our programs, or people, online wanting to engage with it in some way. So that's World Kindness Week.
What is the one thing that you wish people would just stop doing because they think it's kind, but it's actually not helping anyone?
Wow, that's an excellent question. Thinking you know what's best. I think with good intentions, people can do things thinking, oh, I know best, so I'm going to do something. But it goes back to being curious. The idea of the golden rule, like, I'm going to treat you how I want to be treated. but what if that person wants to be treated differently? So by making this assumption that like, oh, I know how to show up, I'm going to do this for me. So I actually try to challenge the golden rule and how we've learned
It's
it.
like love languages, like your love language and mine can be totally different.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
feel love like this and my
Yeah,
wife very differently. So
exactly. Yep. So I would say it would be connected to that. Like you might have a good intention, but um you might not know. You might not know what's best.